So today I'm going to talk about, my thoughts on the future of physical media and specifically physical video games. What do I see for the future of physical games, whether that's PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. I am actually going to have a decent amount of footage here of the Target and the Best Buy that I went to, and I'll tell you what, it's like a ghost town of games. Tons of empty space. There's like maybe a single copy of a new release like Resident Evil 4 remake, or they might just not have the game at all. Like there's not really much of a clearance section. They don't really have consoles. They have like some controllers. They have a bunch of those little like eShop cards. But yeah, I'm gonna show you guys some footage of the stores and what's in there, and the good, the bad, the ugly, the pros and the cons. So stay tuned. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for quite a while now. I got a ton of influence on this from Gaming Off the Grid. Shout out to them and their channel. I'll leave a link below to the video. I know most game sales nowadays, most people when they buy games, it's digital. They're not going to Target, they're not going to Best Buy. They're buying them on the PlayStation Store. They're buying them on Xbox Live. They're buying them off the Switch eShop. And games like this are a thing of the past, right? Where, guess what? 3DS, Wii U eShop is gone. Your only chance to get this is used. Now the price goes up. Metal Gear Solid 4, classic game by the way. Only way to get it is physical, and they haven't released it on any other platforms, which also sucks. Another example here would be Twilight Princess on GameCube. This game's crazy expensive. You can still get it for fairly cheap on Wii, but that's beside the point, right? Other than like the HD remake, there's no way to get it with the eShop being closed. So digital consoles, or at least all digital consoles at this point, are really nothing new. I mean, I remember the first all digital console I saw was the PSP Go, which came out in 2009. And back in 2009, that was hella crazy. I mean, to have a PSP that was all digital, everyone's like, hey, the console looks cool. It's great that it has, I think, 16 gigs of internal storage, but what am I gonna do with all my UMDs? Like, what do you mean I have to buy these games again? It's ridiculous, right? And you have the Xbox Series X, you have the all digital PS5. My PS5 sitting right over there is actually the one with the disc drive, because I love physical games. And I think these companies are just getting real tired of, having their games get passed around on the used market, because that's profits that they're not getting. The consumer, I'm a niche person, right? I'm a game collector. If you're watching this video, you're probably a niche collector too, but most people want their games digital. They could care less. They're like, hey dude, I'm not tripping off it. Like, I don't need the manual. The manuals were the first things to go, and then it was just the case and the game. But yeah, it's getting to a really weird point where retailers are cleaned out. Clearly the larger companies are like, hey, if we release, Twilight Princess, like I showed earlier, right? Nintendo is going to be like, hey dude, we're not getting any money off the resale of this GameCube version, the Wii version, or the HD remake. We want to get cashed out as much as we can. So we're gonna release an all digital game. You can only get it digitally. We choose what the price is. There's no market price, right? Where certain games like that stack I just showed, like Metal Gear Solid 4 is really cheap. Pokemon X is probably going to continue to go up in value. And then same with the Zelda game I showed, right? Like the market chooses the price for it, right? It's supply and demand. What's weird about this all digital age we're headed into, and there is some pros to it, right? Like it is a little more convenient for most people, and for the average consumer, it probably makes more sense. But the con of it is, if that game gets delisted, you can never get it again unless you purchased it and it's in your download history. So it's a really funky time, because we're losing control as the consumer, as the customer, which totally blows. I mean, the same thing happened with music. Spotify today, or it was like yesterday or something, just raised their monthly subscription price. And like, I'm not super big on physical music. Like really, I could care less, or movies too, honestly. But physical games is like, hey man, like you're not gonna be able to take that physical copy. You're not gonna be able to bring it over to your friend's house if you're going over there, or let your friend borrow it or something. Their only way to do it is by actually buying the game digitally in the future, right? Where it's like, that's kind of a weird spot in my opinion, where the companies have all the power and the consumer really has none of it. And at that point, it's kind of like, hey, you gotta pay to play, or what's gonna happen? You're not gonna play any new releases at that point. And I think the companies realize that now, where it's like, hey, we're putting the consumer between a rock and a hard place, and they're only gonna have one option. I mean, I'm sure you'll have some hardcore gamers who are like, hey, I'm just gonna sit back, I'm gonna play some older games, I'm gonna try to just collect for older consoles and play on older consoles. And that's totally cool, but I mean, it's gonna get really weird when all new releases are digital only, and we're already starting to see that on the PS5 and Xbox Series X. So, I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen. Now I kind of want to talk about my predictions for each console, right? So PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. So PlayStation, they still release a decent amount of physical games, and I think they will for this generation. But personally, I think the PS5 is going to be the last PlayStation console that has physical media. We already see the way that Xbox and Microsoft are going, right? Where they're all in on Game Pass. A couple of my buddies, I know one specifically, one of my friends has an Xbox Series S, the all digital console. And he's like, dude, I don't miss physical games at all. I have Game Pass, I have access to all these new games. But in the back of my head, I'm like, dude, if they remove that game from Game Pass, or if you didn't buy it, like, you're screwed. It's not like you can go out and get a physical copy because you have an all digital console. So we already know the direction that Microsoft is going. They said, you know what? We're totally good off physical games. A lot of newer releases aren't even getting Xbox One releases, but they'll still get some PS4. So yeah, Microsoft and Xbox, they're completely cool off physical media, and that's obvious. Next gen console for them will probably just be some kind of streaming machine, or they'll just continue to print money off Game Pass, which is cool. I don't own an Xbox, and I haven't owned an Xbox since 360, but for the average consumer, Game Pass probably makes sense. Next up, we have Nintendo, and the Nintendo Switch still gets tons of physical releases, right? And I love the Switch. I love collecting for the Switch. Nintendo kind of does things at their own pace. They do what they want to do. So I could see Nintendo's next console being physical as well, especially with having that big Japanese audience and market share. From what I've seen, it seems like maybe the Japanese market is a little slower to adapt to digital. I went to Japan at the end of last year. There was still a ton of Switches out in the wild, and it looked like a lot of people had physical carts. So I thought that was really cool that physical media was still really big there, or at least physical games. So I think Nintendo, we're in the clear for next gen. PlayStation is gonna be really iffy. I could probably see PlayStation going all digital, maybe doing an external disk drive, but Xbox is, no way in hell Xbox is doing physical next generation. Like, they probably could have even pulled the plug this generation and it wouldn't have been a big deal. I feel like Xbox fans are, on average, probably a little more casual than a PlayStation or Nintendo fan. Really, really weird what's going on at like these physical retailers where they just don't seem to stock games anymore. Like, even the new releases, as you guys can see here on the footage, it's like, okay, cool, here's a copy of the Resident Evil 4 remake. That's a recent title I'm thinking of, but they're like, hey, yeah, we'll have a copy, a couple copies, and it's like once a game sells out, it doesn't seem like they restock it. Every time I go to Target, which is like probably once every couple weeks, me and my girlfriend head over there and I'll go through the game section just to see what's up, see if they have any deals, if they have some game there that I'm interested in, which is pretty much never, but I always like to check. And yeah, it's very empty. If there is something that's on sale, they'll have a little tag on it, but 9 out of 10 times it's not in stock. They like never have consoles. They'll occasionally have controllers, and most of the aisles at Target and Best Buy here are literally just filled with those eShop cards, or the basically the redemption code for the game, which I don't even know why you would buy that. It's like, hey man, like, why would I go to the store and buy this card when I can just put my credit card in on the store and buy it and not even have to go to the store? So yeah, I don't know if these giant retailers have some kind of like deal with these companies to like continue to sell it for a certain amount of time, but it definitely seems like they're really phasing out physical media. I don't have any footage of the Walmart that I occasionally stop by and check games out, but Walmart tends to look in the best shape in terms of just like how many games they have compared to Target and Best Buy. The Best Buy was pretty rough to see. Walmart does seem to actually have consoles in stock whenever I go, for at least like Switches and stuff. But yeah, we're entering a really weird spot, and I really wanted to make this video. I mean, Gaming Off the Grid definitely inspired me to make this video, but it's like, dude, I've noticed these retailers have really just stopped trying. It seems like, I assume they don't probably make a lot of money off these games. It's costing the game companies more money. They have less of a profit margin, where they're like, hey, we gotta make this physical case and disc and actually mail it out, and this store has to take up shelf space and hold the game. So yeah, I mean, we are a niche audience. We're a niche fan base who like to have physical video games, and I'll continue to buy physical as long as I can, unless I get like some smoking deal on the PlayStation Store, which even then I'm like kind of hesitant to buy a game on there. But yeah, I don't know, it's a weird spot. Let me know what you guys think about the future of physical video games. Do you think you'll always buy physical, or are you already all digital? Or are you kind of a mix of both? Yeah, I really want to hear what other people's thoughts are on this, because I grew up with physical. I was born in the late 90s, so I feel like I kind of got that last taste of almost like pre-internet kind of. And yeah, I don't know, man, long live physical games. Let me know what you guys think. As usual, appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you soon with another video.